Well, welcome to this is a series of frequently asked questions and these are questions that we often get here at Relationships Australia Victoria. And my name is Russell Moore. I'm a senior practitioner at Melbourne, also coordinating the FRC information group. We're going to give today, you can watch a lot of this content just by flicking through the slides in one of the other alternative options, but you'll also have an opportunity to meet many of our staff if you watch through this presentation. And so we have 12 of our dedicated staff, of which there's just a representation of many. And we're going to answer some of the questions that we get quite frequently, and understanding that this has gone out with the appointment letter, with the invitation letters, so you could be watching this at any stage in the process. And this is an opportunity for you to find more about who we are and what we do. And so with that in mind, I've got we've got many of our staff who are going to speak to these questions today. And we're so thrilled to be able to present this information to you and to find out more about what we're about. So we're going to, the terms that we will use, FAQs obviously stand for frequently asked questions, FDR stands for Family Dispute Resolution, and Family Relationship Centres is what we might call FRC. So you will hear those terms. We'll use those abbreviations throughout our presentation. But first of all, I'm going to hand over to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander officer to do an acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the land. Ash, thank you so much, Ash, for this.
Thanks, Russell. Hello, everyone. My name's Ash Dargan. I'm a Larrakia man from the top end, from Darwin in the Northern Territory. I am the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Engagement Specialist with Relationships Australia Victoria. And it's my special honour to provide an acknowledgement to country. Relationships Australia Victoria acknowledges the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners of the land and waterways of Australia. We pay our deep respects to elders past and present, and recognise and value the ongoing contributions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, which enrich all communities within Victoria. And I would also like to acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people watching this presentation. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you so much, Ash, and beautiful acknowledgement that you shared with us. I'm now also going to have some people that often the question we get asked as FDRPs is what are the likelihood of some sort of success? And of course, as FDRPs, that's very, very difficult to be able to assess. And so I'm going to now, but I have people that probably can answer that question. So I'm going to first of all introduce Ed Shackle, who is our Senior Advisor in Family Law Services and our Legal Officer. Ed has been working in FDR since the early 90s, and so he speaks with great authority, having practiced at so many different levels. And so that perhaps Ed's vast experience and Ed's going to introduce himself at this stage, and we'll speak later on. So Ed, I'm just going to ask you perhaps to say a few words of introduction at this stage. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Russell. Yes, I'm Ed Shackle. I'm happy to be part of this presentation. As Russell said, I've been with Relationships Australia, or working for Relationships Australia Victoria since 1993. I currently supervise our senior FDR practitioners and also available for consultation around FDR cases. And I'm also the legal officer, which means that I give legal advice and information about aspects of the programs that are run by Relationships Australia. So I got interested in what was called family mediation at that time, now called FDR, when I was working at Legal Aid as a family lawyer. And I couldn't help thinking that I wanted to work with people in a different way, and there must be a different way of trying to resolve disputes. So I did family mediation training in 1992 and then moved into the area of family mediation. But I've found it extremely fulfilling. And I suppose over time, what I've observed is that those couples who have the willingness to try the process and to commit to the process and to see if it works and to commit to the agreements that they make in the process, experience a reduction in stress and conflict, and it can be a very positive experience for them. Now, it's not for everybody. As you'll hear through the presentation, it's important that it's appropriate for separating couples, and that you'll see that that's assessed carefully. But my observation is that it can be a very positive experience, and a lot of couples can learn to learn a better way of communication, and certainly that can have benefits for their children. So I've remained with the work because it's been meaningful for me, and I can see that it's been meaningful for the clients of Relationships Australia.
Thank you, Ed. Somebody else that could speak to this question with authority about the likelihood of progress or some sort of success, however you define that, from FDR is Sandra Opapuko, who is our evaluation specialist. So Sandra is going to introduce herself at this stage. Thank you, Sandra.
Thanks, Russell. My role as evaluation specialist is to really understand how programs work and gather information about what impact that has on our clients, and also get their feedback and see how we can make improvements. So I'm going to start off with actually just kind of defining what family dispute resolution is and how it works, and then we'll speak a little bit later about what actual impact it can have for you. So it's a structured professional process which assists separating or separated families to facilitate communication and reach negotiated outcomes. We also keep a strong focus on what's in the best interest of the child. But the process in FDR is just as important as the outcome. So we have very skilled practitioners. They know a lot about many areas, and importantly, they remain neutral. They provide information and help identify issues specific to your situation. And each party is allowed to have their say in FDR. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well. Thank you, Russell.
Thanks so much, Sandra. And of course, the other person that can speak with great authority about the hope that, or what's possible in FDR, is Dr. Genevieve Hurd, who's our senior researcher. And Genevieve did some extensive research across Australia and on FDR. And so I'm going to hand over to Genevieve to introduce herself at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. I'm Jen. And as Russell mentioned, in my role as researcher, I have been part of a big study into FDR outcomes with clients nationally. And we're going to go into it a bit more later, but at this point, by way of introduction, I just wanted to say that our research points to positive results for those who participate in FDR. A majority of clients do reach some kind of agreement, and the great majority are satisfied with their experience of the process too. Family dispute resolution can also help you improve your post-separation relationship with your ex-partner, which really is in the best interests of your children. So at this point, I just want to say it's worth a try.
Thank you so much, Jen. And we'll be hearing from Jen and Sandra and Ed throughout the program. We also, in addition to our family dispute resolution practitioners, who you'll meet in a moment, we'll also be hearing from our Ash again as our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander officer. You also hear from our two of our family violence specialist leaders and a manager and others as well. But first of all, I want to start off with of course, the people that you'll be meeting on the ground that'll be helping you with your cases is our very skilled FDRPs. And so I'm going to, first of all, introduce Rebecca, who is one of our FDRPs, and she and others are going to take us through a list of FDRs. So thank you. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Russell. And I'm an FDRP who's a lawyer by background. I guess FDRPs, we all have different backgrounds, and mine is a legal background, where before I joined Relationships Australia Victoria, I've worked for about 20 years helping families who were affected by international armed conflict. And now I'm working in Australia with families and very passionate about using the FDR process to really help parents and carers to work out how they can best support their children to thrive and live the best lives they can. So I'm going to clarify around what is FDR. And as Russell has already said, FDR stands for Family Dispute Resolution. And that's a term that was introduced in 2007 when the Family Law Act was amended. That term was introduced. FDR is different from other services and processes, so it's not counselling, and it's different from court-based mediation. But FDR is often called mediation, and it's a step-by-step process that will help people involved to negotiate and reach agreements either about the care of their children or about financial and property settlements. So if you're thinking that you needed mediation and you want to discuss things around parenting or finances, then FDR, you're in the right place.
Is Liz. I'm one of the mediators from Sunshine Family Relationship Centre, where I've been working for the last 4 years. My question is about what is an FDRP? Family dispute resolution practitioners, which are the FDRPs, are the mediators who provide FDR. FDRPs have specialised training and are registered as accredited practitioners with the Australian Government Attorney General's Department. Our practitioners are very experienced and skilled in providing a safe, structured and professional process to facilitate communication and decision making.
It's Ed again here. I'm going to talk a little bit about when FDR is required. As has been mentioned, it can help separating or divorcing couples resolve disputes and reach agreements about parenting or property. But in Australian family law, requires parents to attempt FDR before they can file an application for parenting orders, or at least by attempt FDR, at least come along for assessment of suitability for FDR, and if it's assessed as suitable, to try the process before they can file for an application for parenting orders. That doesn't apply for an application for property orders, but it is a requirement for parenting. There are some exceptions to this requirement, however. The most common of those is if people agree. If parents agree, they don't have to try FDR if they already agree, or if it's particularly urgent, or sometimes in cases of family violence or child abuse. But in other cases, an attempt at least must be made in parenting matters. I'll now hand over to Sandra and Jen.
Thank you, Ed. So the question, why try FDR? Reaching an agreement through FDR can give participants a greater sense of agency and control over their outcomes and lead to a more satisfactory agreement for both parties and also children. And as Ed has already mentioned, this is, of course, when it's safe and appropriate to do so. It can be an affordable alternative to formal legal processes, which can also lead to a greater satisfaction and improve outcomes as well for the whole family. The practitioner, it's important to note, always has a private session with each party first, an assessment for the purpose of assessing whether it would be safe and appropriate to proceed to FDR. And I'll let Jen speak a little bit more specifically about the research findings that demonstrate the benefits of FDR.
Thanks, Sandra. So our research suggests that about 2/3 of our FDR clients are able to come to some agreement in FDR, whether on their parenting matters, their property matters, or both. But we also find that there are benefits to participation in FDR that can hold regardless of whether or not an agreement is reached. So our clients have reported that they appreciate the opportunity to be heard in this setting, and they appreciate having a forum to address the issues under dispute with the help of an impartial third party. Our research shows also that participation in FDR can help improve communication between ex-partners, reduce conflict and stress, particularly parenting stress, and help with the process of adjustment to the separation. We've got a quote here that is a nice one, because it's from a dad who participated in FDR and who, I think his tone suggests, is quite pleasantly surprised that participation was beneficial for him and for his family. I won't read the whole thing, but just to read part of it to you. He says, FDR really reaffirmed for both of us what's in the best interests of our boys. We were reminded to continually focus on that, and that's actually been a really cool thing. I can actually communicate with the boy's mother if it's about the children. I can do it with ease, and friendly, and respectfully. And he goes on to say that he doesn't need to be able to talk to her about other things. That's still difficult, but through this process, they were able to forge a path of communication between them that enabled them to co-parent more effectively and with less conflict. I believe I'm passing over to Rebecca now.
Thank you, Genevieve. And so throughout this presentation, we want to explain the FDR process in a bit more detail. But what I'm going to do over the next few slides is to give you a snapshot or a quick summary of the process. And the first step begins with one person contacting the Family Relationship Centre and booking in for an assessment. So at the time they contact the Family Relationship Centre, they'll be asked a series of basic questions that help our staff understand their circumstances, and then booked in for a more in-depth assessment appointment with a family dispute resolution practitioner. And then we move to the next step, which is that assessment appointment. And that is a one-on-one individual appointment with the family dispute resolution practitioner. It's a chance to discuss essential details about you, your children, if you're here for parenting, and your situation, what you want out of mediation. And at that time, the practitioner will discuss more about the FDR process and also be able to provide referrals or information that could be helpful to your situation. As part of our process, we also offer an information session, and that can be held depending on which centre you're working with at different times, either before or after the assessment session. The information session provides information about parenting after separation. It's really an opportunity to reflect on the children's experiences, and particularly where parents are able to minimise conflict and really focus on the children's interest. And that information session also will suggest ways to help prepare for mediation and how mediation fits in the family law system. Now, for the second person that's involved in mediation, they'll go through those same steps as well. The phone call to book in an assessment appointment, to attend a separate information session. And after the practitioner has met, or the Family Relationship Centre has met with both parties, then the centre will determine the suitability for mediation. Is your situation suitable for mediation? That's something that's determined by the family dispute resolution practitioner. And it's important to reassure you that at every step, confidentiality is maintained throughout the process. And then where mediation is suitable, it can take place in a number of ways. Sometimes it's in the same room, sometimes in separate rooms, and also by telephone or by video. So your practitioner will ensure a safe, respectful, structured and professional process to be able to support the decision making, to step through all the ways to make decisions. And at the outset of the mediation session, an agenda is agreed by both participants, and then there's the opportunity to work through the ideas and to propose, make suggestions, and agreements can be made. So that is the broad picture of the steps that are taken at the Family Relationship Centre around mediation or family dispute resolution.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, my name is Lisa and I'm a manager at Relationships Australia Victoria at the Melbourne Family Relationship Centre in the CBD. There are 3 reasons I choose to be a part of Relationships Australia Victoria: their long-standing history of providing high-quality, fair and authentic relationship services, its clear and genuine commitment to its values, but mostly it's because of the team and the remarkable people I get to work with every day. I've been working in the community services sector for around 20 years, but I have a prior history in the government sector. My educational background includes the social sciences and psychology, management and leadership, and I'm a nationally accredited mediator myself. Question 6, what happens in an FDR assessment? Well, once someone contacts us and asks for a family dispute resolution, an FDR, they're offered an individual assessment appointment. This assessment helps the practitioner to understand the person's situation, to determine if the service is appropriate for them and their circumstances, and works through the next steps for both parties, both the people in dispute, in participating in the FDR. They're also offered relevant information and referrals to a range of services and are invited to attend an information session. During COVID-19, the assessment appointment has been held via telephone and the information session is online. However, these are usually provided as face-to-face services for clients. I'd like to hand over to Ash now.
So 1, okay, 2, go.
Relationships Australia Victoria recognises that we live in a wonderfully rich and incredibly diverse community. We've been doing a lot of work within our organisation to build our cultural competency across our workforce in alignment with state government sponsored initiatives. We have a very, very strong commitment within our organisation to meet the cultural safety needs for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And we would also like to extend this warm welcome to the diversity that we meet in our community, including our LGBTIQA+ communities, our culturally and linguistically diverse communities as well. I've been doing a lot of work with the team that you're meeting today in ensuring that when you walk in through our doors, that you will not only be greeted very warmly, but your whole client journey will feel very, very safe. And we're going to make sure that you're supported in all the ways holistically that are going to be able to meet your individual needs and your cultural needs. And we'd just like to let you know that you will be very, very respected when you walk in through our doors. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the practice specialist for family violence and child safety. I work with Steve, so I'll throw to Steve to introduce himself.
Hello, thanks Katie. I'm Steve and I work in the Male Behaviour Change Program as a Senior Advisor. I've worked with ROV for 15 years through running groups, case management and also as a family violence practitioner. Thank you.
Here we will touch on safety. So I've been with RAV for several years and prior to that have worked with men, women and children in government programs. So at Relationships Australia, the safety of our clients and families and our staff is our #1 priority. So we're committed to the safety for our clients when they're attending our centres or using our services remotely, if it's on the telephone or on our Zoom appointments. And when clients are participating in FDR, thorough assessment and ongoing focus on their safety and welfare is a priority. So, for example, we are reliant on both parties to disclose, for example, any court orders that might be in place before coming to our centres, and that might guide some of our the types of involvement we have with our clients. And we also prioritise the safety and best interests of the children. So this is also a primary consideration in the FDR process. Thank you.
And so it's back to Rebecca and asking the question, if FDR is appropriate for a family, what happens during an FDR session? And so to clarify that if after the assessment where the FDRP has spoken and had an assessment with both parties, the FDRP determines that mediation or FDR may be a helpful process for the family's current situation, then an appointment is booked in for both parties to attend FDR. And the FDR can be set up in some different ways. Participants might be present in the same room or they might be in separate rooms, which is a process called shuttle FDR. And the FDRP will discuss this with the parties, but ultimately the FDRP will decide this.
It's Ed again. Just going to talk a little bit about what happens during FDR. The practitioner will help you identify what's in dispute and develop an agenda. That is, the issues that each party agrees to discuss. With the FDRP's help, the parties will consider and discuss options that are in the best interest of the children and work at a practical level for each of them. In property FDR, parties go through a process that helps achieve a property settlement, a division of property between them. After a period of negotiation, looking at options, the FDR practitioner may ask to talk to each client separately to check in how they're finding the process or to explore other ideas and options. Clients can also ask for this at any stage of the process. And finally, the practitioner will ask clients to make a parenting plan or will assist clients, to make a parenting plan or other agreement about their children. In property matters, a property agreement or other options may be explored. In some cases, the FDR process will take more than one appointment, especially in property matters where the average is probably 2 to 3 appointments. I'm going to hand over now to Katie.
Thanks, Ed. So from Steve and I's perspective in regards to family violence and FDR, we take family violence very seriously. During the initial assessment that all parties attend, the FDRP screens for and explores any safety issues and works through the next steps. Parties who are impacted by family violence are provided relevant information and referrals. So within relationship, we do have programs and services for both victim survivors and perpetrators of family violence. So we can assist with providing program support for those parties. And we know that FDR can still be helpful for some families impacted by family violence and will only proceed where it is assessed as so. And Steve will talk to a little bit about the violence.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll just reiterate that at all points we do take family violence very seriously, and the impacts on the family, the safety of women, children and men. If a perpetrator of family violence, or if it is seen that it might be existing and is referred to an NVC program, there is an assessment for the suitability of a man to do that group. The suitability of that comes down to a level of accountability for the impacts of that behaviour. We offer support through that assessment and through the program for the man to see or to be invited to change behaviours and therefore work to safety. The research shows that if family violence is present, the dispute resolution process can be hindered because it's not a safe environment for both people, to be completely honest. So in a way, our program supports the whole process in order to get a safe and positive result. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. It's Liz again. My question that I'm answering is about whether clients are forced into making an agreement at FDR. It's important to know that clients will not be forced into making an agreement. One of the conditions of a parenting plan or any other parenting or property agreement is that it is made voluntarily and without threats, without duress or coercion. The purpose of FDR is to provide a safe process where issues can be explored, options can be considered, and clients can choose if they do or they do not want to make any decisions or agreements. Thanks.
A parenting plan, I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to talk a little bit about a parenting plan. There's a parenting plan is defined in the Family Law Act, and it's a list of agreements about any matter relating to the welfare of children made between the children's parents, often about spending time and other arrangements to care for children. Other people with an interest in children's lives, such as grandparents, can also make written agreements in FDR. As has been mentioned, it must be made voluntarily without threat, duress or coercion. If it's signed, and a parenting plan under the Family Law Act is a document that's signed by the parents, it can be considered by the court if parents do end up in court at a later time. However, a parenting plan itself is not legally binding, meaning you can't take a parenting plan itself to the court as you could with a court order. I'm going to hand over now to Mary.
My name's Mary, and I've been working for RAV for nearly 13 years now. Prior to that, I had been working with adults and children in the disability area. My background is in psychology. Apart from doing the work of an FDRP, one of my other roles is one of the child consultants within the organisation. And in that role, I may be asked to interview children of school age so that the children's perspectives can be shared with the parents. Children really are the focus of our work. And when children are interviewed, it gives parents additional information really to consider in their decision making. Clearly, parents will always be the decision makers. When parents separate, there are many challenges that can be tough for them to work through. And we will obviously support parents with any issues they may have with information and referrals. but it is important to keep the children in focus too. The information that's relevant to the children and the developmental stages they are at can be really helpful for parents so that they're able to make informed decisions when deciding on arrangements for the children. It's never easy being a parent, but with separation, there are clearly going to be additional stresses. With the next slide, Russell. Okay, so we'll encourage parents to attend or access information with the information sessions, which will provide a lot of really useful information for parents. And our hope for parents who have accessed this information is to help with their capacity to co-parent together with less conflict and better communication. And that will enhance their ability to refocus on the children so that the children become the focus rather than other issues affecting relationships. An option that parents have within the process is to have their children interviewed in the child inclusive process. This can be particularly helpful when parents are hearing different stories from their children, or when children are really behaving in ways that are puzzling to parents. Both parents need to consent to the children being interviewed. And prior to any interview of the children, the child consultant will have a brief interview, a phone interview with each parent, and make a decision whether or not having the children interviewed is appropriate. The advantage for the children is that there is a neutral person hearing what's working for them, what they're struggling with, what they're stressing about, and it gives us a snapshot of really what it's like to be this child, living the life that they're living, everything considered. In my experience with the dozens of children that I've interviewed is that they're really very honest. They are very accurate observers of what's going on in their families. Don't ever underestimate how carefully children watch and listen. I've found that the children are often relieved to have been allowed to share what their experience of the separation has been, although when they come into my office, they can often be a little bit nervous about what's ahead. Once the interviews are completed, there's another mediation session arranged so that the parents can hear what the children have had to say. And sometimes that can be surprising for parents. And that's the value of the whole process, really to have the children's voices incorporated into the process. Okay, so I might hand over now to Rebecca.
Thank you, Mary. And so this next question asks, how can I best prepare for FDR? And one of the important ways of thinking and preparing is considering that the mediation sessions, FDR sessions, of course, are limited in their time. They generally run for about 2 hours. And so to really consider your priorities, what are the things that are going to be most important for you to discuss in the time available? And to think about what are the things that are crucial, what are the things that feel relatively important, and then what are the things that are less important and that you perhaps don't need to discuss urgently. As you think of each of those issues that you decide are crucial, it's helpful to think about what would be the best case scenario and what is it that you would be willing to accept as an outcome? What is it that you could live with that would be best for the kids? And really, as you prepare and prepare emotionally for the mediation or FDR session, we really encourage you to come with an open mind and a willingness to explore options and to think through all the different possibilities and be ready to listen and hear the other person as well as put forward your ideas. And of course, whatever we do and whatever decisions we make, we are always being sure that we don't compromise any family member's safety. If we move on to the next question, we're going to address why would the FDRP decide that FDR is not suitable and what happens then. And so it's under the FDRP regulations related to the Family Law Act that FDRPs are required to assess whether FDR is suitable for each case. And there's a range of factors that they're required to consider. FDRPs make that decision very carefully, and they often do it in consultation with their supervisors or managers. In a case where the FDRP assesses that mediation or FDR is not suitable, then the FDRP will explore the options with clients, such as negotiating through lawyers and other legal processes.
Thank you, Rebecca. So it's Russell again. I'm going to now talk about how much does FDR cost. And across our 4 family relationship centres, these are the fees. The assessment and information session has no cost. The first and second session of family dispute resolution is $30 per session. For the 2-hour session, $30 per session if your annual income is over $50,000, and free of charge if your annual income is under $50,000 or a healthcare card holder. So we really encourage parents to make the best use of those first 2 sessions because they're significantly subsidised. And then in the third session, the session cost is your annual income. It's $1,000 by 1.5. So, for example, if your annual income is $50,000, the session cost will be $75 per hour, and if you're so the whole session will be $150, and if your annual income is $100,000, then actually the session cost will be $150 per hour, so it'll be $300 per session. So we do encourage parents to make the best use of those first 2 sessions, and of course, realizing that the sessions beyond are much cheaper than other alternatives. But sometimes, if the people spend a lot of time about what's happened in the past, and the FDRP is trying to encourage people to have a future focus, and when they realize the jump in fees or when that kicks in, then sometimes people say, it was such a shock to them. So just be aware to make the best use of those sessions. There are hardship that can be applied for as well, of course, but just be aware of our fee structure and to make the best use of our sessions. I'm going to hand back to Monique now, Monique is going to introduce herself and one of our community liaison officer, and she's going to take us through the children's development. Thank you, Monique.
Thanks, Russell. Yes, so my name's Monique and I'm a community liaison officer at Melbourne Family Relationships Centre. So my role is promoting Relationships Australia Victoria to the community, but also listening to the needs of the community and bringing that back into the work that we do here at RAV. So that includes, my role includes doing parenting programs like tuning into teens and tuning into kids. So I'm going to talk about how FDR considers children's different stages of development. So in the age group of 0 to 5, we encourage parents to provide lots of reassurance to their children, and not just when they are looking distressed, but throughout this whole process. To be patient when your child is having, disrupted sleep and are unsettled. Any changes to a child's routine has to be brought in slowly and sensitively. And of course, to avoid putting the other parent down in front of your children. Moving on to children aged 5 to 8. Provide reassurance that they don't have to choose between you and the other parent, and make sure you provide opportunities for your children to talk about their emotions, anger they might be feeling, loneliness they might be feeling. Providing sensitive and age-appropriate answers to questions or statements. So this age group particularly do long for their parents to get back together. So considering that when you're talking to them and answering any questions they might have. Again, avoid putting the other parent down and burdening the children with adult issues. From age 8 to 12, providing those opportunities to talk about what is happening for them, so their side of the story, their perspective, without asking them to choose between parents. Consider how any arrangements impact on their sporting and social activities. Clarify and make it very clear that you are the adult, and so your child does not have to carry adult responsibilities. Providing comfort and time to talk about fears and concerns, and again, avoiding putting the other parent down. As you move into adolescence, be prepared to listen and talk to them. Instead of your adolescent, find a confidant to talk about your adult issues. So keep your fears, anxieties, and financial stresses away from teenagers. They will need time and space to work through their own reactions and the separations. And again, avoiding putting the other parent down. So I'm going to pass back to Liz now. Thanks.
Thanks, Monique. My next question is about property FDR. Property FDR, or property mediation, enables separated people to address and negotiate a property and financial settlement. This is often a very cost-effective way of resolving property matters. The process itself involves the parties agreeing on a list of assets and debts and their value. So that's the first step. Then there are discussions about contributions and the future needs of each party, and a presentation of the options. So we go through the different options that there might be for resolving the property dispute. The discussion and negotiation takes place next, and then if possible, parties make an agreement. If that agreement is made, then we will make some notes about that so that they can take that on further and have that written up if they wish to do so. We have a booklet at Relationships Australia called A Fair Share. It provides information about property settlements and dispute resolution and can be obtained by clicking on the link below. Thanks. Back to Mary.
Now, I guess you'll have realised that there are heaps of resources available to you as parents, not only in booklet form. There are information sheets, internet sites, video resources. One of the resources that we have, What About the Children, has a lot of really excellent information, not only about what to consider and what to avoid when separating. It's got really useful information about children's perspectives at different stages of development. And it can help to alert parents when children do show signs of their distress, if there are problems that may be useful for parents when they are working through how to co-parent. The booklet, Why Am I Going to Relationships Australia, this is when children are going to be interviewed, really gives a very simple explanation of what to expect when the interview is going to be conducted, because it can be a little bit scary for children going and talking to a stranger. You'll be able to access a very useful video resource that highlights what it is like for children at different sort of age groups, how they experience their separation when their parents remain in conflict and find it hard to communicate. I think hearing from children can be a very poignant reminder about what it is like when there is a lot of conflict and disharmony around them. There are other really, really useful resources not mentioned here, but one that I'll give a big plug to is the Raising Children Network. It's available online, and it's an Australian government information site that really provides up-to-date information to parents with children from newborn to 10 years. It's really comprehensive and covers many aspects of children's development, and it's highly regarded. It's a really good site. There is a New Zealand site that you can access online via YouTube called Voices After Separation. lasts for about a quarter of an hour. The first part really shows you children who are deeply distressed with what's happening in their homes, and then it goes on to showing parents really acknowledging that and working out better ways to co-parent. These are all very useful resources. I guess we live in an age when there's a lot of access in a lot of different formats to information that may be useful, and clearly there'll be some that will resonate more with you as parents, but it is worthwhile finding out what is there, going through these resources and finding what may be helpful to you. Thank you. I think it's over to Liz now. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's my turn, Mary. Rebecca here. I was just reminding myself what a useful resource the Share the Care Parenting Plan brochure is from Relationships Australia for people who are preparing for a discussion about parenting issues. It's full with lots of ideas that might prompt your thinking about what it is that you need to discuss and different options that might be available. And of course, we've talked during this presentation, Ed talked about parenting plans. You can get more information also about what they are and what their status is by following the links on this slide. And I'm handing over to Katie for some more resources.
Thanks, Rebecca. So from the family violence perspective, if a victim, survivor or affected family member does feel unsafe, particularly whilst going through FDR, because separation can be one of the most high-risk times for victim survivors, that emergency 000 is contacted if they're in immediate danger. There are many other resources and referral points available for victim survivors there, such as Safe Steps. So they do provide a crisis response, such as refuge services, for counselling and support services for family violence and or sexual assault. 1-800-RESPECT is available. Women from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds can contact In Touch. They're an excellent service, and they can also assist with visa-related queries. And also the service JIRA for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women is available for any support and also legal services. And then following on from that, we have Relationships Australia Victoria has a wonderful resource called Women in Separation. This is a really well-written booklet that speaks to separation and women's experiences and covers, many aspects such as, children's separation and how to relate to your former partner, where to get further assistance, and also how to look after yourself. There are also further telephone advice and support services from the Domestic Violence Resource Centre. And also some general parenting support information through the Education Department. And for anyone who does require some crisis support, particularly around mental health wellbeing, Lifeline is available at the links there on the screen. And I'll now hand over to Steve.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, from the male perspective of support from RAV, there's the same brochure called Men Separation, and the subtitle is Navigating the Future. This really goes to the heart of a lot of men during separation experience a confusing time in which a lot of negativity might come up. This negativity can impact the family in an ongoing way. A lot of the information today is around the safety of women and children, and also impacts on children and how men go about in the relationship through separation with the children's mother is very important for the children. So there's a lot of really good tips in there around the emotional impacts of separation, the practical impacts such as finance and stuff like that. Also, there is Men's Line, which is another crisis response whereby if they needed to talk, professional counsellors are online 24/7 to talk through some of the stuff that they're facing. Another support is Men's Referral Service, which has the same sort of counselling, but also has referral to specialist agencies such as ours, where they can get into groups and really look into themselves and help themselves for their families and so on. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. In addition to the other resources also mentioned, we have some resources for the LGBTIQA+ community. General advice and support can be found at Switchboard. Counselling and mental health support can be found at Queerspace or Thorn Harbour. And general support for Rainbow Families. There is a resource there at Rainbow Families with the email link, or sorry, the website link there on the slide. Thanks. Over to Ed.
Thanks, Liz. Just talking a little bit about legal support resources, legal information and advice. A few different places. There's a legal aid helpline, which has been around for a long time, provides free advice and information, free general information, I should say, about family law matters. That's very helpful. And I should also mention that Legal Aid has its own child dispute resolution service, which is run with the help of lawyers who are directly present. To access that service, at least one of the parents needs to qualify for legal aid. There is the community legal centres themselves provide free legal advice. You'll need to make inquiries about whether that's over the phone or in person.
Right. Go.
As I was saying, in relation to the Law Institute, the Law Institute provides a couple of services. Law Institute, of course, serves the private family lawyers, and there are a couple of services. One is a service whereby they will provide a list of private family lawyers who will provide 30 minutes free legal advice. The other service they offer is a list of accredited family law specialists. So you can contact the Law Institute and they can send you a list of either or both of those, and they can be helpful. Talking, I suppose, more generally about legal advice, it's important to understand that clients can access legal advice and are encouraged to do so at different stages of the process. Some will find it helpful before they attend FDR, obviously during the process to look at options and that are suggested in FDR. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, that at different times in the process, specific legal issues may arise that need legal advice. And parents and clients are encouraged to obtain that advice as they go through. I'm going to hand over now to Ash.
Thanks, Ed. For our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, we'd like to highlight two services that would be able to offer you additional supports. So whether you're from the stolen generation, whether you'd like your kids to be involved in community activities, in cultural camps, for the men, there are plenty of men's groups going on in these services and also women's groups as well. So these services will be able to look after your needs across your complete social and emotional wellbeing needs. First up is the VACSL, the Aboriginal Centre for Male Referrals, and they also have a 24-hour line that you'll be able to talk to them at any point should you be needing support. And also the Victorian Aboriginal Health Service is actually the benchmark for Indigenous health services in the country. They were actually the first health service in Australia. So for all of your needs across your complete social and emotional wellbeing spectrum, they will be able to support you in all sorts of ways. Thank you.
And I'd like to talk for clients who come from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds to direct you towards some resources for just general well-being of you and your family. If you are an asylum seeker, then the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre can be a very good resource, and we've got the link there, that www.asrc.org.au. If you are a migrant, then migrant resource centres are also available in lots of locations around Victoria. And we would also direct you towards the Refugee Health Network and Foundation House, who is another organisation who's able to support the emotional wellbeing, particularly of refugees who might be rebuilding their lives in Victoria.
Okay, so I'm flooded with lots of options with regard to accessing support, but with the post-separation parenting courses that are available, there are many. Check the website. I'll just mention a few. We offer a Parenting After Separation course. It's a one-day, really comprehensive workshop where a lot of interactions with the participants and the facilitators really can draw out a lot of very useful information for parents to use. And I think importantly for parents to recognise that they're not alone with a lot of the issues that they're struggling with. There's dad stuff. It's a webinar for dads to help with ways of being a dad, of connecting with children, with partners. There's My Parents and Me. It's a group program run over 4 weeks for children between 6 and 10 who are grappling with some of the issues that they're experiencing following separation. Check the website, see what there is that's available. With regard to programs that help parents to manage their children's behaviours and some of the difficulties that they encounter, the Tuning Into Kids and Tuning Into Teens programs are really good. With the Tuning Into Kids, this is for the younger age group, different age groups from the early part of childhood to middle childhood. The courses that are run can help parents connect with their children and help parents deal with the underlying causes of some challenging behaviours of children. Parents are helped to learn strategies to help children manage their emotions, essentially becoming a coach. Obviously, it's never easy to parent and particularly hard to parent when children are really exhibiting behaviours that can be tough, but trying to work out what's going on to support children is really helpful. With the Tuning Into Kids, the courses are run with mixed groups, but there's also a course run specifically for fathers if that's what the dads are wanting. With the Tuning Into Teens course, that's for children aged between 12 and 16, and the course aims to help parents deal with conflict with their teenagers, behavioural problems, emotional outbursts. It just aims to give the parents the tools to help their teenagers just develop, the language is emotional intelligence, but to learn to negotiate their way through some of the challenges of the teen years. They're both really useful courses, the kids and the teens courses, and they run over 6 weeks. Worthwhile checking what's available, the times, and whether or not that's something that you may like to consider. Thank you.
It's Russell again, and I'm just now going to just conclude. As you see, we've heard from just 12 of our staff, 12 of our very dedicated staff, which is just a snippet of the depth and breadth of staff that we have here at Relationships Australia. There's 12, we've talked about the information session that we have, and I encourage you to participate in it if you can. Mary has just addressed the parenting after separation. We have some online options during this during these COVID times. We have a range of options that are available. So your family dispute resolution practitioner puts a lot of thought and a lot of effort into your well-being and the well-being of your children. So the referrals that they're offering are well thought out. They're thought out for your best interest and for your children's best interest. So do take them seriously when they're offering those thoughts to you, and some information that we can provide as well. All this can be, these links can be, you can find this on the PDF or the PowerPoint option that you'll have on the site. We really do appreciate your time today, and thank you so much for making this investment in your children by working through this presentation, and we hope that this has given you some idea of the effort and thought and care that we put into our work, and that we're hoping that we can be of assistance to you in some way as you go through the family dispute resolution process.